So welcome. This is a demonstration of Eon's integration with Microsoft Fabric. So we're really excited to be demonstrating this because this is helping our customers understand how they can use Eon as well as Microsoft's Fabric in order to turn their backups into an accessible data lake. So just at a glance, Eon is a completely agentless and cloud native infrastructure backup solution. And you'll see here, we actually automatically discover and classify persistent data across multiple cloud hyperscalers. So of course we have here Azure resources, AWS, and Google Cloud. And like you'll notice, here we can filter, for example, let's look for a particular business unit, Eon Financial Services, and we can see resources across regions, right, across different database engines from a single pane of glass. And so you'll notice multiple different database types, and we actually are able to consistently detect, classify, and then back up these resources. So here you'll see the daily snapshots and a weekly snapshot. Eon is able to recover them either as a full resource or an individual disk. You can do that cross account, cross cloud. And when we see that happening, right, that's great. That's a traditional type of backup solution, table stakes. But what we also do is go beyond that. We can go into that resource itself. So you'll notice here Eon's data classification features, where we can actually tell you if there's sensitive data detected within your resource and where it's detected. So which column, which database, which table. And that extends also to files. It extends to application detection and ransomware detection. So you can, of course, search globally for all of your files and recover them, but you can also drill into your database data as well. So you can recover the full database, but like you see here, you can choose a particular snapshot for which you have a backup and actually run a query on that data. So let's take a look at this snapshot from earlier in the week. I can go ahead and select that. And then here I'm able to actually run a query against this data. The important thing to realize is this query on a MySQL database is not running against MySQL database engine. This is actually running directly against the Eon backup storage tier. So remember that Eon, even though it's a completely cloud native solution, is actually taking our cloud resources and ingesting them and storing them in a queryable format that's based on cloud object storage. So here we see that we've performed this database query and it's been sent to object storage. You could do that through the console or API. But what if I want to do that in my own analytics tooling like Fabric? So here's our Fabric integration. I can create other types of integrations as well with popular analytics stacks. And what I can do with Fabric is either set it so every single backup is going to be synced with Fabric and be available for analytics there, or I can do it on demand. So let's take a look at that on-demand workflow. So in the Eon search, we're going to go and populate this OneLake Lakehouse. So let's go into Eon search and find our tables that we would like to share with Fabric. So of course, here we're able to search across all of our database backups. We could search our file-based backups as well. And I see two database tables from my use case. These are in Azure. And I'm going to share those with Fabric. Now, the beautiful thing here is we have this shared vision, right, with Microsoft Fabric, which is the ability to unify data across all platforms. So if we go into our Google Cloud database backups, which of course in Eon are all in the same interface, we can actually search here for tables. So here's some more analytics and application telemetry data. Let's share those with Fabric as well. The important thing to realize as we're looking at this, right, we're going to go across to our third hyperscaler, find some data that's in AWS, that's in the same use case. Remember, we are not copying any data. So when we share to Fabric, we're actually creating a shortcut that allows us to run queries across these data sets. But it's important to realize that this is meeting you where you are. There's absolutely no need to do any redundant copying and storing of data. So essentially, your backup data becomes a data lake without the need for a separate ETL pipeline. So the backup is the pipeline. So let's go back into OneLake and take a look at our lakehouse now that it's been populated. So here we see a bunch of these tables that we've just been working with, right? And if you'll notice, again, this is also able to unify the data, and it doesn't matter which database engine it's from, it doesn't matter which cloud it's from, which region it's from, right? Or even if it's VM based or database as a service, right? Like Azure SQL or like RDS or like Cloud SQL. So here we have this info available to us. Let's actually go ahead and try to query it here, right? So we just queried an Eon. Let's use Fabric's SQL Explorer to run a query. So I'm going to click New Query. And similar to what we just did before, I'll select 100 rows from the customers table. So let's take a look at that. And again, you'll notice I'm running this query, but I am not actually copying any data. So this result set is being returned directly from the Eon backup storage tier. And here, sure enough, we have these results. But what are we able to gain now that the data is in our OneLake Lakehouse? Let's actually use Copilot in order to explore some trends across the data that extends beyond the customers table, right? So this customers table actually is in AWS. Let me combine it with some data in Azure. So we'll ask, and let's try to have Copilot help us develop a query to understand which states, right? So which states that our customers are from are driving the most revenue. And we can maybe find that out using our transactions table. So let's use by transaction amount. So we're going to actually ask Copilot to help us develop a query, and Copilot is going to be able to use the context present here in Fabric in our OneLake Lakehouse. And here's a query that we've got that's popped out of Copilot. And let's actually try to run this. You'll notice we have the customer data, we have transaction data, and we're able to actually join those in a single query. So let's actually go and run this and see what we get. Okay, so here we're able to actually understand, right, which states are driving the most revenue. And this is a really, really important thing to realize. I am able to get this value out of my data, right? Joinability across data sources without the need to copy anything. And the other thing to realize is we can leverage more tooling as part of Fabric and the ecosystem in Microsoft. So here we have a semantic model, and Eon is able to infer joinability between data sources, no matter which cloud or which database technology they're from, and actually auto-generate those relationships in semantic models. So now that we have this model, we see all these different entities that were in our Eon backups, and we can actually use the semantic model to generate dashboards on Power BI and get even more powerful analytics out of it. So if you see this here, we have this auto-generated report. I would understand account activity by location, and I can also work with the filters and the different data types in order to change this and get different angles on my analysis. So to sum this up, and as we see this, working with this Power BI activity report, we have to understand that with this partnership between Eon and Microsoft Fabric, we're able to leverage our backups as an accessible data lake.